autophagy. The change that's going to happen, autophagy, you should expect autophagy to happen around 36 hours. In the average patient, hoping that autophagy is going to happen in 24 hours, there's always a little bit of autophagy also. Look, everything happens in small amounts in everybody because you and I are still having autophagy. All of us are having autophagy. It's just the extent of autophagy is very minor. So the average person, your average person that's eating 3 times a day, who's got metabolic disease, he's also having some autophagy. We all have to have some autophagy, but he's having very little autophagy. As a result of that, his cellular mechanisms are not very efficient. Autophagy means that when the body senses that there's an energy deficit, the chemical changes that occur include a decrease in your mTOR, increase in your AMP, and the ratios of certain chemicals in your body, and your SIRT, S-I-R-T, which are certain chemicals, and your FOX3, which is a certain chemical, they start going up in your fasting state. And they send a signal to your cells to say, hey, I am here now. My job is to take all these redundant chemicals and redundant protein molecules that have been just sitting in the cytosol of your cells, break them up, package them into little lysosomes, and export them out of the cell so that the breakdown products can be used by the body who at this time is in a fasting state and needs these. How does the body give the message to the cell? It gives it through all these chemicals. The AMP, the SIRT, the FOX3. So these are the chemical changes that initiate the autophagy. The autophagy results in a more efficient cell. The cell's efficiency is in its ability to then make proteins, the RNA, the endoplasmic reticulum, all that also improves. But also your mitochondria improve and your genetic material improves. So I'm going to explain what my mitophagy is. Mitophagy, that means your mitochondria in a fasting state like this, under the influence of these chemicals, your mitochondria. It's funny that nature makes mitochondria and we think that all the mitochondria are the same. They're not. They have some human tendencies. Some get lazy, some get round, some get fat, some get long, and they become inefficient. So inefficient mitochondria are no good because those mitochondria make a lot of reactive oxygen species and less ATP in the electron chain. So what happens here is that these mitochondria that are not efficient in producing ATP and they produce more reactive oxygen species instead, that means they're kind of dirty mechanisms, these mitochondria get knocked off. And in return, you get division of other mitochondria and production of new mitochondria because these chemicals go to the DNA of the mitochondria, turn on certain mechanisms, and make new mitochondria. These new, fresh mitochondria, they get poured into the cells. Why does a child's mitochondria is so different from an adult's mitochondria, right? So you're producing these new mitochondria, which are much more efficient, much better, because the body is trying to renew itself to make a better specimen out of you. Fasting creates a better specimen out of you. It improves your cells, it improves your mitochondria. It repairs your DNA. Your DNA undergoes changes under these chemicals influences, like FOX3, for example. So you'll repair your DNA, your histones. Oh, wow, what are histones? Histones are chemicals that cover over your chromatin material. And when they unfold, they release, they open up, and now certain genes get expressed. So now these genes can translate and make new proteins, okay? So these chemicals, when they are there, they make your chromosomes start making new things. And some of these new things are anti-inflammatory chemicals. So when your FOX3 is high, when your SIRT1 is high, your NRF2 will be turned on. What is that, NRF2? All that is that these chemical changes change your mitochondria, but also change your genetic material. When your genetic material now changes, it's going to make anti-inflammatory molecules. These anti-inflammatory molecules are going to benefit the patient. So who turned it on? It was these chemicals. Who turned on those chemicals? It was an energy deficit state. What made that energy deficit state? Fasting did. So fasting turns on an anti-inflammatory. Now, you see, we're coming to anti-inflammation. Fasting is anti-inflammatory because it produced the chemical changes that made your chromatin material now make certain new anti-inflammatory molecules. So you got new mitochondria, you got new expression of materials from your genetic materials that are anti-inflammatory. And these pathways have all been worked out. And we know these pathways, they've all been worked out. And thereby you have a cell that is going to be more efficient and more resilient. Resilient cell. Resilient to what? To everything. It's a stronger cell. You basically become a stronger cell, a stronger human being. What does that mean? I'm going to explain what that means and what's my practical experience on that. When your cells have undergone this type of change, we call it a hormetic change, right? Hormesis is a stress on that cell. So I stressed that cell through my fasting program, and it produced a cell now that is a new type of cell. It's more resilient to disease. It's better functioning and all. How does that transfer to real life? Well, now that cell under stress is going to survive longer, and your body wants you to survive, because it wants you to survive till you get your next calorie intake that's going to come in. For me, what I've seen is that when people fast and they undergo surgery of any kind, they recover faster. When patients are fasting and they're undergoing chemotherapy at the same time, I've noticed, and I've seen it, and I've worked out the mechanisms, that they actually go through chemotherapy much more easily. They get less nausea, less vomiting, they feel better. And the theory, and I haven't proven this in studies because I don't do those type of studies, but basically what happens is that the chemotherapy is going to attack every cell in the body. Don't think that it's only attacking your cancer cells. It doesn't happen that way. But you've made your whole body more resilient through this process, so the cells are less likely to succumb under chemotherapy, and then of course the cancerous cells are going to die under this circumstance. In that context, you need to know about senescent cells. What are senescent cells? Senescent cells in your body are old cells, and these cells have bad chemistry. They haven't died yet. They're just old, and they hang around, and they produce a lot of inflammatory molecules. So you take a senescent cells and put it amongst normal cells, it'll secrete all these chemicals around them and make all the other cells also dysfunction. In a fasting state, the senescent cells become the target as well, and they die off. So fasting is a senolytic. Fasting gets rid of your old zombie cells around your body as well, and thereby reduces inflammation as well. See? Because those zombie cells produce a lot of inflammatory molecules. You got to get rid of zombie cells. You got to get rid of these senescent cells. You have to. We all have zombie cells as we get older. But nature made it that intermittent fasting, you're going to fix that all out. Eventually you'll die. But you'll have a longer healthful span, because our health span has dropped by 12 years because of this modern living. So you may live to 86, but my health span is so low that I spent the last 15 years of my life sick and dysfunctional and just feeding the healthcare system or whatever, or becoming bankrupt. The number one cause of bankruptcy is medical bills. So I'm digressing there. But the point I'm trying to make is that it's our responsibility to understand more what fasting does and how it's going to impact your physiology. Because when you're empowered with that knowledge that my senescent cells are going away, my telomeres are probably getting a little bit longer, which means I'm going to live a little bit longer. And by the way, we know that this type of diet makes you live longer. We know that. We know that. That's been done in humans and animals. The hormesis induced by fasting makes you live longer. There are other hormetic things that we can also do. So I like those types of hacks, but we can talk about that some other time, which is, heat, for example, and saunas and the likes. They are also hormetic stresses. But the king of all hormesis is fasting. That is the king of all hormesis. There is no bigger hormetic stress than fasting. None whatsoever. So now at 36 hours, because that's where we are stuck, right? 36 hours, autophagy is kicking in. Autophagy goes higher and higher and higher. You get maximum autophagy 72 hours. So don't tell me that, I'm getting an autophagy on day 2. No. You want maximum autophagy. You're going to get some, but you want maximum, you got to go 3 days. Okay? You got to go 3 days if you want autophagy. Anything less than that, it's helpful. But aim for that 3 days. That's what I'm saying. You got to get past that 3 days. And once you're into your 4th and 5th day, it's amazing. Your autophagy is now off the roof.
If you enjoyed that clip, you're going to want to head over here and catch the full episode. I'll see you over there.
The king of all hormesis is fasting. Doing time-restricted feeding on a daily basis should become part of your life. Stop snacking. It's unnatural. You should only have 2 meals a day in a 6-hour interval.